Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
Woo, how we doing, baby?
Doing back with another freeloader app.
We're in 2021 now. This train is still chugging along like we told you all years ago.
Oh, yeah. And we're starting off 2021 with some cult shit.
Some cult shit, some Satanism, some heinous murders. What else do you want from us?
Now, they are heinous murders. Be warned about that, guys.
These are, some of the worst these are some of the most brutal killings we've ever done, and done at the hands of a couple of the most brutal people, especially one character in this. Whew.
Yes, very brutal, and a lot of confusion, a lot of blame being cast around, and a lot of other variables. And this is also right in the middle of the Satanic Panic, so you got a lot of corruption. Oh, I hate to use the word corruption, but a lot of jumping to conclusions on the law enforcement side as well.
Law enforcement and the media as well.
Yes. So, as you guys can imagine, I'm sure as being true crime fans, you guys are very familiar with the Satanic Panic. Happened through the 80s and 90s in the U.S. here.
This case almost, in a sense, kicked it off, or was right at the forefront of it.
Well, this is right after the Manson murders. So that's really, you had Manson murders, and a decade later you had this, right? So, it was just icing on the cake for that Satanic Panic, and it really did. I really do. I think you're right. The Manson murders played a big role in it, but these murders, they really kicked it off. And they took place in an old school area of the U.S. in Massachusetts, right? Where we had, Salem witch trials. We had Lizzie Borden hacking up her parents. So there's a lot
area. This part of Massachusetts has a crazy story and history. Not just history, but still to this day, it's known as an area where it's one of those paranormal type of, you could do shows. There has been shows done about it. Yeah.
Maybe we should cover that area on Sandu.
Definitely. The Bridgewater Triangle.
Triangle.
Definitely. There's so much to talk about in regards to that.
That's right. Yeah, maybe we'll cover that on Sandu and go a little more in depth and in some of the supernatural happenings that happened around Boston during that time, or Massachusetts, rather.
Yeah. Yeah, so that we were talking a little bit about this before, because you weren't so sold on the fact that this is a cult, even though it is kind of marketed as a cult. This case, the Fall River cult, it's a small group of people. It's not a large cult by any means, but by definition, it is loosely a cult, I think.
Yeah, I guess so, by definition. But it has to be understood from the beginning that this is a stereotypical Satanism cult. This is not a like Antoine LaVey satanic cult here. This is not to be confused with the peaceful Satanist religion. This is, like I said, I like to call it the stereotypical Satanist religion. It's what most Christians think Satanism is. I think. Yeah,
and it's like the way that a lot of teenagers they get into Satanism, and they don't really dive deep and read books about it. They're just like, Satan, let's kill for Satan.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, Richard Ramirez is our God and our leader.
Right.
Yeah, it's all the wrong. Yeah, it's all the wrong stuff here. All the wrong stuff. But either way, this was a perfect concoction, a perfect scene for this to be exploited in this period in time. I really do think so.
Right. I think Damien Eccles would have poo-pooed their idea of what Satanism was, this cult. Because he actually studied it and understood Satanism is more about science, and it's more of a way of crapping on Christianity and stereotypical religions and whatnot. I don't know.
Right.
I find it fascinating the way that Satanism is interpreted by different people. It's like, if you don't know, or not that I know, I'm not in the know either, but it just seems like it's misunderstood, and I think it was intentionally, like the Bible, the Satanist Bible, or the Bible of Satanism. It's by Anton LaVey. It seemed like he put it out there with that name on it to get attention, and also as a way of like saying F you to other religions.
Yeah, I think also in a sense, you're weeding out anyone who isn't open-minded enough to accept the religion in the first place. You know what I mean? With throwing that bold of a title on there, you're going to have only open-minded people who are willing to look at it in the first place there. So you kind of you block out a big part of the population. Me and Lauren were talking about that earlier. I'm like, that's some terrible marketing for your religion, but maybe he did it in earnest intent to spread these ideals, not to make money. Like,
yes, supposedly that book, the Bible of Satanism, doesn't even claim that there is a Satan. It basically openly admits there is no Satan. It's a way of living your life the way that you want without I don't know. It's
about taking control of your life and also believing in scientific values. It's not completely crazy.
What we're saying is more of you out there are probably Satanists than you think.
That's right. That's right. Even though you're not practicing, there's more undercover Satanists out there than we know of.
Right.
He's not such a bad guy. Come on. Gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
The one
we're
angel.
We're going to get one starred by some Christians.
The one angel that disagreed with God and we kick him out, right?
Yeah.
He tries to start his own thing and we're like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, really? Right. Is democracy so wrong? Huh? I'm just kidding. Let's start the show.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, listen up, y'all. I got a few interesting quotes from Mr. Carl Drew, who is a big player in this case. Spoiler alert. The quotes go as follows. Some may think we lived life on the edge. You have to keep in mind that it's the only thing we knew. It was the way we raised ourselves, with little to no alternative left in us those days. People were more into the free-spirited effects of the times, not worrying about what was happening with kids left on their own in the street. Some of us came to believe in the Gothic lifestyle of ancient times, where we lived by night, and in many ways this was to avoid authority. No evil, dark, macabre nonsense. We found interest in what was described as the Gothic way, something real that could be savored and relished in, just enjoying the whole beauty and aspects of our world and survival. But Robin was a known Satanist, and proud of this fact. She took what she was doing way too far, and on her own killed 3 young women. This 17-year-old young woman had practiced paganism before she was even 10 years old. She was telling the girls who were hanging around with her that there was a cult, and the members of this cult would kill them. But if they paid her a fee, which she convinced them to get by prostituting themselves, she could protect them. The only one the fee was going to was her, because in her sick mind, she was the cult. It seems Satan had his paws dug so deep into her that nothing seemed too crazy for her to do to those who crossed her path. End quote. All right, so that's it. That's the quote. All right, see you guys later. Although, I really hate to waste this little funky beat I got going on here. Yeah, this is a groove. Let's try something. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mama 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mama 40 whacks. Okay, it worked out pretty good. Let me try something. Let's try something with Robin. Okay, here we go. Robin Murphy took a knife and then she gave her friends a slice, and when she saw what she had done, she knew she had to blame someone. He had to blame someone.
All right, our case this week is the Fall River cult murders, which took place between 1979 and 1980. Basically, a trio of horrific slayings are perpetrated on 3 women.
Oof, understatement.
All 3 being sex workers. They were mutilated, battered, arguably even stoned to death.
Yes.
And yeah, some things came to light. A group of people who were out pushing satanic rituals and trying to get power from Satan by sacrificing people,
right,
and torturing them.
Yeah, ironically, they always sacrifice people that wronged them in life, though. I just thought that was funny. I mean, that can't help but be pointed out. I mean, come on. Why is it always people you dislike or people that went against you that get sacrificed? If you really wanted to sacrifice, aren't you supposed to sacrifice pure and good people? Why are you sacrificing people that are out here doing people wrong and whatnot?
Yeah, see, it's all in how you interpret things, man.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe the devil doesn't care. He just wants a soul.
Yeah. And my biggest argument against this actually being a cult is that I feel like for a cult to be a cult, the followers have to follow willingly. They are drawn in by a charismatic leader, and they can't help themselves. They just have this strong belief in the leader and the values of this belief system. Whereas this one, I feel like the followers of this quote unquote cult were following out of fear because
fear and safety.
The two people that were leading this quote unquote cult were so damn scary and dangerous and violent that if you didn't follow, you would end up being one of these sacrifices.
Right. And some did.
Yeah.
Some did.
One in particular was so sad, that story in here.
Yeah.
Of a person who was a part of this, didn't want to be anymore, tried to get away, and
it was too late.
Yeah. So let's get started. In the early 1970s in the United States, the post-World War II economic boom began to wane due to increased international competition, the expense of the Vietnam War, and the decline of manufacturing jobs. And so we saw a decline in the economy in the late 70s in the United States. We never really talked about that effect on, all the successful serial killers throughout the 70s. Could have also played a role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because a lot more people were turning to lower income parts of town, and maybe
a lot more sex work.
I was about to say a lot more ways
out of desperation.
People were getting income in different ways, ways they had to think outside the box.
Yep. By the late 1970s, the U.S. was hit by a recession, unemployment, and rising crime rates. And the once prosperous textile city of Fall River, Massachusetts, was a city that was hit particularly hard. Factories closed, buildings were abandoned, and the downtown area had become somewhat of a wasteland, which provided fertile ground for a thriving trade in sex and drugs and sex work. So, kind of what we were talking about. People taking chances they wouldn't have normally taken, or being forced into, a career path that they didn't necessarily want.
That's right.
But because the economy was doing terribly, they didn't have any other options.
Right.
Amidst this urban decay between October of 79 and February of 1980, a series of brutal murders took place and helped kickstart the Satanic Panic, which would go on to dominate the 80s and early 90s. This area of Massachusetts already had quite a storied past. Fall River, as you briefly mentioned earlier, was where Lizzie Borden had hacked her parents to death with a hatchet back in 1892, allegedly. She never got convicted.
That's
so
right.
To say allegedly.
Somebody hatched
although she's, somebody hatcheted them, and it seems to be Lizzie.
Yeah, it does. It just does.
There's even a song about it,
right.
or a poem, I guess. And it's also, Fall River is also just south of a storied area of Massachusetts called the Bridgewater Triangle. And this is what we talked about. You should definitely cover on Strange and Unexplained.
Yeah, I think we
our
will.
Other podcast.
We will.
Yeah. The Bridgewater Triangle is an area of about 200 square miles within southeastern Massachusetts, claimed to be a site of alleged paranormal phenomena ranging from UFOs to poltergeists, orbs, balls of fire, and other spectral phenomenon. Various Bigfoot-like sightings, giant snakes, and thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds? I don't even know what that is.
I know.
I'm about to click on these. What's
see.
Thunderbird mythology? Thunderbird is a legendary creature in certain North American indigenous peoples' history and culture. It is considered a supernatural being of power and strength. It is especially important and frequently depicted in the art, songs, and oral histories of many Pacific Northwest coast cultures. But it is also found in various forms among some peoples of the American Southwest, East Coast of the United States, Great Lakes, and Great Plains. So everywhere. Yeah. It just says a thunderbird is a bird that controls the upper world, while the underworld is controlled by the underwater panther or a great horned serpent. They also saw giant snakes, right?
Giant snakes.
Oh, maybe the great horned serpent and the thunderbird are making appearances in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So the thunderbird, he actually seems like kind of a righteous type mythological creature.
Powerful creature and a powerful car back in the 90s, the Ford Thunderbird. My mom had one, had a V8 in it.
Yeah, they were short-lived though. Then they tried to do those throwback.
It's kind of a badass car though, dude. Like it was comfort. Like I remember it being very, very cozy and comfortable, but also powerful. Like I said, had a V8 in this little car.
Oh yeah, my parents had a '96 Thunderbird. I remember it very well. It was light blue, and I remember it was the first two-door car they had with me and my sister.
Yeah,
and
ours was
we
a
had to
two-door
climb.
too.
I mean, I think they all are. And we had to climb in behind the seats, which was super annoying because you felt trapped back there. I hated two-door cars when I was a kid. But yeah, I do remember my parents loving that That 96 Thunderbird. Thunderbirds used to be a cool thing, man. They had like the different logo. They didn't have the Ford logo on. They had like the bird wings, spread out on the front grill and stuff. They're ugly as shit
I miss
now.
90s cars, dude. I don't know. They were more fun. Like you always had like attachments that, each person would put all these stupid little switches and lights and shit inside.
Some of them had phones inside of them.
Yeah. But also, like, there was the whole fun of there being like it's a 2-seater, so you had to squeeze back there, and then there's this giant bench seat. Where, like, I even had the stories of like being in the very back of the station wagon, rolling around with my cousins,
looking out the
going
back
down through the city.
Yeah,
looking out the back. Yep.
Oh, I loved riding in those reverse seats. I loved riding like that. You're just staring at the people behind you in the stoplight, waving at them, making faces at them and shit.
Yeah.
Good times.
Hot boxed with cigarette smoke from your parents.
There you go.
Or your aunts.
Good times.
Good times in the 90s. Well, actually, I've had nostalgia this past week because my wife's truck's in the shop getting repaired, and my brother-in-law is all about vehicles. Like he's had like a million vehicles since I've known him, and a lot of them are classic rods and whatnot. He has this 90s Ford Bronco that he let us borrow while my wife's truck is in the shop. So we've been driving around this 90s Bronco.
Nice.
It's just so nostalgic, dude.
Aren't they badass?
I want to just like get rid of my phone and live the simple life again.
I know. I'm telling you, those Broncos are badass. They come out with a new one this year, though.
Oh, dude, I want one of those. The new Bronco looks sick.
Who doesn't? Those are insane. All right, we got to get back to
this. All right,
case.
Back to nostalgia, by the way. The Satanic Panic. Let's get back to that.
Let's do it.
So in the Bridgewater Triangle area, there's also been several satanic-inspired killings over the years. Satanism seems to be, as we mentioned, often misunderstood, and it's occasionally used by those who don't understand it to do heinous acts under the name of, for Satan.
Right,
to impress
right.
Satan.
Satan catches a lot of blame, right? The old devil made me do it adage.
Poor bastard.
He catches a lot of blame. Sheesh.
So yeah, this is one of those stories.
Yes, it is.
And it begins on October 13th, 1979, when the body of a young woman was found. Doreen Levesky, a 17-year-old runaway from New Bedford, was discovered by joggers under the bleachers behind the Demon Vocational High School in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Man, do you think you pronounced that high school right? Demon? I know it's spelled
oh, shit.
D-I-M-A-N,
I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, it very well could be Demon High School. Diamond? Yeah. I mean, either way, it doesn't sound good. But Demon High School fits this case way better.
Demon High School, bro. That's where she was found.
Under the bleachers. Oh,
it's like you can picture this being the start of a movie.
Yeah.
Of a horror movie.
I mean, look,
almost.
you even have the joggers. This is the perfect true crime case.
Joggers finding a mutilated young girl under the bleachers of a high school. That is the start of most horror movies.
I was about to say,
really.
Not very original, but it really sets the scene.
Yeah, right. These killings apparently inspired some filmmakers.
Yeah, apparently.
So this is where it gets dark and pretty bad. Doreen was face down and her wrists had been bound with fishing line. There were signs of sexual torture. She had been stabbed in the head several times and suffered many skull fractures. Her head was pretty much crushed, like unrecognizable. Police discovered that the young girl had been working in the sex trade and initially suspected one of her clients had committed the murder. However, the county medical examiner determined that the killings were likely committed by multiple people, and the forensics evidence also suggested a ritual element to the crime, and as we mentioned earlier, a possible death by stoning, which would explain all of the skull fractures.
Which makes sense, because that's a very, very popular form of death in the Bible, especially if someone was seen to go against the crowd, commit horrible atrocities, or accused of being a witch or any type of Satanist. They would be stoned. Yeah. So it's kind of ironic that they would pick this out. I mean, it is such a barbaric thing, when you think, oh, how are we going to kill this person? Let's just crush them with rocks. Like, oh my God. Right. Like it's a horrible thing, but
all you can hope is that if you're the victim, that you took one rock to the head early on and were unconscious for the rest. Because
that's the most you can hope. But I mean, that most of these people that did these stonings and stuff, I mean, I'm not saying that they stoned them here, but they know what's up. They're beating the shit out the body first. These people know they want to punish these people. That's why I think the stoning was a real thing. If these people had anything based on the Bible, religion, because you can't have the Bible and God without Satan. So,
right,
it's not a stretch that they really did, that this girl really was stoned by multiple people. and the injuries are very consistent with that.
Yep, and that wouldn't be the first time either.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't. It wouldn't be the last time
Right.
that a body was found and believed to be stoned to death. In this case,
Exactly.
So the police and the public were understandably concerned that this wouldn't be the last victim that they had that these perpetrators would harm if they didn't find them soon. However, a month would pass. They didn't have anything to go on. I mean, they find this girl battered and mutilated. There's no physical evidence or nothing left behind that would lead them to a perpetrator.
Right.
And so a month would pass before the police finally get a solid lead. A month after the discovery of Doreen Levesky's battered body, a 44-year-old New Bedford man named Andy Maltias walked into the Fall River Police Station. This is a sketchy guy. Andy was there to file a missing persons report for his girlfriend, a 22-year-old sex worker named Barbara Raposa, who, like Doreen Levesky, the victim under the bleachers, worked the Bedford Street area as a sex worker. So these two women were in the same line of work, these two young girls,
Right.
working the same street. And this guy, Andy, is now concerned that his girlfriend may meet the same fate
Right.
as Doreen. Andy told police that he feared for Barbara's safety. He mentioned a satanic cult and claimed to have information relating to the Levesky murder. And police at this point are kind of desperate. They're like, well, we have nothing right now as far as finding Doreen, and there's obviously going to be public pressure. There was this young girl who was mutilated underneath the bleachers.
Jesus.
This community
Right.
wants answers. They're scared.
And this guy just comes wandering in, solving 2 murders
Yes.
for you, or information
Yeah.
about 2 murders. It's like, this just seems strange.
Yeah, so even though it seems far-fetched, they want to talk to this guy and find out what he knows. With no other leads in the case, police arranged for a formal interview to see exactly what Andy knew. Andy Maltias, by the way, was a known scumbag and creep. He was a convicted pedophile, a sexual sadist, and a violent rapist.
Damn.
Now, however, according to him, he was a changed man. He had found Jesus and had a pocket Bible with him as proof.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, he's got the pocket Bible
That's
and
the
everything.
trump card right there, right? I got my
got my
little pocket Bible that I got at the 99-cent store to show
I got
you.
my New Testament right here. I'm a new man. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. He said, quote, "Jesus Christ is my personal Lord and Savior," he told police as he held up the small Bible. "Once I worshipped Satan, but now I worship Jesus."
There you have it.
Which is a classic conversation, I suppose.
Right.
You know?
I mean, that's just cut and dry right there. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
you should introduce yourself to everyone if you once worship Satan. I mean, just clear the air, right? Just let them know.
I'd have some questions for you. I mean, there's no way that I just am not curious. We're gonna talk some more. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk some more. I actually have some cousins. They're actually second cousins, or a second cousin of mine and his wife, who made that complete conversion. Like, as a kid, I wasn't allowed to go to their house because they were deep in the quote unquote Satanism and the religion around Satan, and it was probably just like Wiccan or pagan, honestly. But my parents probably freaked out about it. But now they're like diehard Christians. It's like they had a child. I had a son like 13 years ago, and now they're like diehard Christians. They even named their son Christian. It was so weird. It was like after they had a kid, they're like, whoa, we gotta give our kid to God. Like, we can still be with Satan, but we gotta give our kid to God, right? I don't know. It was just weird to see.
I bet they get more credit in the church and whatnot.
Oh man,
it's like, oh man, Daryl, he swam in the devil's waters, and now look at him.
He's over here on the worship team. God damn.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's seen the darkness, but now he's seen the light.
He ain't the greatest organ player, and he's usually out of time. But thank God, I mean, he's here. You know.
Dude, no, I feel like if you did worship Satan at one point, you're a badass organ player. I feel like that's a requirement in Satan. You got to know how to play those dark tones.
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure. But yeah, you're right though. They are revered in church, just like anybody that's a drug addict, somebody that went to jail.
I was going to say anybody that's
around.
been through darkness and made it out, like, people give them more respect. People who have had been in a dark period or hit rock bottom and came out of it and are doing well.
What's even more?
Those are always the stories and for athletes and whatnot.
Right. But what's
Darren Waller is a good example on the Raiders, the local team here, the tight end for the Raiders. He was a severe drug addict and whatnot, and had got clean, and now he's one of the best tight ends in football. And people they talk about him nonstop, and what a story he has and all this stuff. And then there's some other players that they're just as good of players, but they don't get talked about like that.
Right. Well, see, it's the forgiveness that these guys get in church is unparalleled, right? And that doesn't surprise me. The forgiveness that other people give them. What surprises me is the trust. The trust that these people immediately have just because someone said the sentence, Jesus Christ is now my personal Lord and Savior, or I worship Jesus now. Just because they say those things, it's amazing the trust that people will put in them. Like people truly believe that conversion is final. And it's immediate. It's immediate. There's no going back. God is in your heart. You're a good person now. Boom. And it's just not the reality, people. It's just not the reality. I've seen so many.
Well, that's what the religion has always begged you for, right? Repent for your sins, and then you can be forgiven. It's all basically all you got to do is say the words. Say the words.
Yeah, but I mean, but people don't have to trust these people who have a track record of keep going back. They keep going back. They keep going back. And then they keep coming back and asking for forgiveness. And every time they come back to church and show up for 3 or 4 Sundays in a row, all of a sudden they're a saint again. And
it's like if your kid kept stealing a cookie from the cookie jar every day and every single time he said sorry afterwards, would you, at a certain point, that sorry doesn't mean shit anymore.
That's right. Your kid's a cookie thief, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is right now.
Stealing them devil cookies.
That's right. It's a gateway. It's a gateway food.
I feel like a cookie jar is just a bad idea in general. Like,
yeah,
it's just begging for you to eat more cookies. That's all it is. It's like you feel like you have to keep it full. You don't want an empty cookie jar sitting there. So that's really the devil at work right there. Cookie jars are the devil.
No doubt. And donuts. Damn donuts.
Oh, dude, donuts. Donuts are they're my favorite thing in the world, but I won't touch them. They're so bad for you. That's like probably one of the worst. That's one of the worst things you could possibly eat as a donut.
I eat like 2 donuts a year. And I'm like, nope, that's good.
Me too. God, they're great, though.
They are great.
When I eat them.
I enjoy the shit out of those 2 donuts a year.
Yeah. Oh. Here's a free plug for donut place in Vegas, Pink Box Donuts. I'm sure if you're local to Vegas, you know about Pink Box. Everybody does. But, man, those are some bomb-ass donuts. If you ever come to Vegas as a tourist, go to Pink Box
Donuts. The best donuts I've ever had from Pink Box, no doubt.
Fantastic. The Fat Elvis. It's got peanut butter in it.
I didn't even get through half of them, so don't even tell me all the things I'm missing right now.
Yeah. Man, we're talking all kinds of devilish stuff.
Like sugar.
All right, so yeah. So back to Andy Maltias, who walked into the Fall River Police Station reporting his girlfriend, a sex worker, missing. He was worried about her well-being, said that he was aware and even kind of alluding to the fact that he was a part of a satanic cult. Mm-hmm. And that he was a member of it, and talking about now he was different, though. He was changed. However, if you read between the lines here, his girlfriend just went missing. He was a part of this cult when she went missing.
Yeah.
And now he's found Jesus, which would lead you to believe he just found Jesus like either earlier that day or the day before.
Yeah, yeah.
Having just been a part of a satanic cult.
Yeah, it don't take long. He's easy to find. Yeah. He's everywhere.
Like you said, once you say it, it shall be so.
That's it.
He's proclaimed. He now follows Jesus. So
speak it and claim
all
it.
of that past stuff about satanic cults and like sacrificing animals and stuff in the woods with his friends, that's all gone. That's all gone.
No need for that in my life anymore.
Yeah. According to his statements, Andy and his girlfriend Barbara were practicing Satanists at the time of her disappearance.
Yesterday.
They were all members of a local cult.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. It wasn't that close.
Yeah. They were all members of a local cult, including Doreen Levesky, prior to her murder. So he's claiming that the 17-year-old girl that was found mutilated under the bleachers at, what was it, Demon High School?
Yeah, Demon High School. Pretty much.
He's claiming that even she was a part of this cult, and they decided to sacrifice her. Andy claimed to have no direct knowledge of that crime, of course, conveniently, but told police that he believed that the cult was responsible for her murder. To police, the story seemed far-fetched, but Maltias was insistent. And also, this was, as we mentioned, the beginning of the Satanic Panic. So these police are also Catholic men.
Right.
And they were a little bit more inclined to believe in this sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Especially up in the Northeast,
which
man.
Is part of the problem.
The Northeast, that is a big, I'd say Catholicism is probably the biggest religion up there, for sure, still, today.
Was it Massachusetts that the witch trials went down?
Yes, Salem.
Well, there you go.
Yep. Yeah, that's where a lot of it started, man. Which makes sense. Yep. It's our biggest hub, right? That's where the country started, so it makes sense.
Not knowing much about Massachusetts, It just seems like I don't know, everything I've seen, it's like all these pictures are always dark. Like you see like dark wooded pictures and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, but you should. Well,
looks
I
sketchy.
know it really does. It really does always look creepy and overcast. It's like, what is it, England up there? Wait, what the hell's going on? But actually, Boston is like a freaking leader as far as like revamping neighborhoods and creating small businesses and as far as recycling, reducing waste overall. Like
Really?
the city of Boston, yes, they are like leading the way. You should check it out, man. You should definitely look into Boston. It would be a really cool place to live if it wasn't so damn cold.
Right.
But yeah, they are seriously leading the way.
Plus, we would have a reason to use our Boston accents all the time.
Oh yeah,
Like, all the time. That'd be great.
that would be,
Dude,
all the time.
where was I? I was at I went golfing a few weeks back, and we're waiting for our tee time, and I'm putting around like on a little practice thing, and I was hanging out with my buddies, and I was doing my stupid Boston accent.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I was just doing it, and then this guy was legit from Boston. He was like, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from here. From Vegas. He just walked away.
He's like, what an
I
asshole.
felt like such an ass.
That's funny, dude. That's funny.
It was awkward.
You should just study up like one small town near Boston and just tell people that's
Yeah.
where you're from when you're doing that now.
Yeah,
So just so you know.
I had a moment of I had a decision to make. I'm like, okay, do I keep pushing this, and then he's going to question me
Right.
like what part of Boston I'm from and shit, or do I just cop up to it right now?
Right. No, I think you made.
Because he probably knew my accent was bullshit when he heard it. You know,
Where are you from? That's hilarious. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it, dude.
yeah, don't worry about it, guy. You don't know my hood. You don't know.
It's a wicked cool place, dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to Andy Maltias. His story, he's telling police. They're a little on the fence about it. So he decides he's going to convince them that, he's legit. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He offers to arrange a meeting with two of the cult members. And he was sure they had more direct information leading to, what happened
Right.
with these girls, one that's missing and one that was murdered. Mm-hmm. A few days later, police were introduced to Karen Marsden and Robin Murphy. Karen Marsden was a 20-year-old single mother. Like many of her peers who worked Fall River's red light district, she was a runaway, a single mom, and a drug addict. Police accounts described her as nervous and emotional. The other woman, Robin Murphy, however, was the exact opposite. She was cold, deliberate, and calculated, and downright scary. This is one of the two people we mentioned at the beginning that are just terrifying.
And so young.
This woman, Robin Murphy, is fucking scary.
So young. Only 17 years old.
Yeah. But you do kind of get chills. So did you see the other email I sent you with the pic? I have
Yes.
each character in this a picture, and I'm looking at a picture of Robin Murphy. And if I had to cast like a woman to be a scary Satanist in a movie,
Yeah.
even though she's young and she's not ugly, but she's just got a scary face and she's got like the dark rings around her eyes and this intense look in every picture you see her in.
You know why?
She would be that one. And ironically, in the picture I'm looking at, she's wearing a cross.
Yep. You know why? Because she's dedicating all of that teenage passion and rage into Satanism, and that's why she's so damn good at it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I've said it before, like kids have a ability to focus on things and become good at things that they are interested in way faster because they only focus on that thing. Like we as adults, we have to compartmentalize our brain to learn a skill. It's like, okay, right now I'm gonna learn
Yeah, because
piano.
we got all these responsibilities we have to do, whereas they have endless time.
They have endless time and they have no worries. And when they're focused on one thing, that is all they're focused on.
How else do you think they get so good at Fortnite?
Thank you.
It's not even worth
Dude,
it to go on there and try and play against these kids.
Listen, like 2 weeks ago, I taught my son how to play chess. He's 11 years old. He beat me twice yesterday. Like seriously, no doubt. Like I was really trying to beat him. I'm really trying to beat him. I don't take it easy on him no more. Because the kids beat me twice yesterday. Their brains, when they can get into that mode, they're not thinking about anything else. They're using all of their brain power on just that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with a 17-year-old, especially a 17-year-old girl who's more mature. And kids mature.
Yeah, and has a dark history. She's
been used
experienced
and
being
abused.
molested for years, and she's working as a sex worker already.
That's right.
At 17.
That's right.
And so Yeah.
And kids grew up faster back in the 70s and 80s too. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
ask your parents, man. It's like,
You were exposed to a lot more shit you shouldn't have been.
yeah, kids were out and about.
Protect kids and we insulate them a lot more now as we should.
Well, I think kids are
still
getting exposed to stuff, but they're not experiencing things like they did in the 60s and 70s. They're just seeing it on YouTube and TikTok and shit now. They're not, the kids nowadays aren't naive by any sense. They're definitely getting fed all that shit, but they're not experiencing it like Robin Murphy was. Right.
Yeah. So Robin was both a sex worker and an aspiring pimp. She was a tough street kid who was described as possessing a high degree of intelligence and a domineering personality. The girls told police that they were roommates as well as lovers. Their connection to Andy Maltias, however, the guy that walked into the police station and introduced the police to these two, their relationship with him was a bit mysterious. They knew him from around the area, I guess, and I think Karen knew him a lot less than Robin did. Robin had been in this area for a lot longer, grown up there. She knew damn well about Andy Maltias and what a scumbag he was. She was supposedly molested by him since the age of 11.
Wow.
That being said, Robin Murphy was also a bit of a storyteller and a liar and a horrific person in her own right.
She's
I would even argue a lot worse than Andy Maltias once you find out more of, about Robin Murphy. She's one of the scariest people we've ever covered on this, really.
Yeah, but if she's telling the truth, then Maltias helped turn her into this at the same time.
No doubt.
He's definitely responsible, some responsible for this if half of what she says is true.
Well, he's a rapist and a known pedophile, and he's been convicted of these things. So if there's anything I'm going to put clout into when it comes to Robin Murphy's story, I'll give her that one.
Yes, I will as well. That makes sense.
So throughout the interview, Robin Murphy pretty much kept her mouth shut, studying the officers, giving them that cold, dark stare, I'm guessing, and occasionally scowling at Karen, who wouldn't shut her mouth.
Right.
Karen Marsden did some talking. She was scared, however, not of the police, but of the people that she had gotten involved with, including the person she was sitting next to.
I was about to say,
Murphy.
She better be afraid of the person sitting next to her.
I don't know why she was talking.
God, shut the hell
knowing
up,
how
Karen.
scary Robin is. Yeah, shut up, Karen.
Shut up, Karen. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Eventually, Karen broke down into tears and told police, quote, Carl Drew killed Doreen Levesky. And Carl Drew, we haven't brought into the fold yet.
So many names in this guy. Hang on, guys. Just try to keep up with the names. There is a lot of names in this. I would try to do our best.
So police knew that Carl Drew, they knew of him quite well. He was a 26-year-old pimp with a violent reputation who ran his business out of the Bedford Street district. So right away, he's connected to these women who were working that same district. He also had a felony record with past convictions for assault, weapons possession, and armed robbery. He was originally from New Hampshire and had been raised on a small farm. And his childhood was also ripe with violence and abuse. His childhood was allegedly filled with hard labor and abuse at the hands of his cruel alcoholic father. He tells the story of being a young boy and his father tying a rope around his ankles, lowering him down into an old well to remove a cluster of dead rats.
Well, you want to drink that rat water? I mean, what? How
Yeah,
else are you supposed to get him out? What is he gonna lower his dad down in there? This kid needs to quit bitching. You want some clean water, or you want some rat water, huh?
I think, I mean...
How do you get him out? How do you get him out? I don't know. You got to lower somebody down.
Yeah, oh, man.
just
about... Okay, I get where you're coming from, Michael. I know you're joking. I hope you're joking.
I'm partially joking.
I'm just trying to picture myself being lowered down into an old fucking well, and that's just...
it's traumatizing. It's absolutely traumatizing.
Oh, my God, it's horrible.
But at the same time, those rats got to get out of there, if they're dead rats. You can't have dead rats in your drinking water. You're all going to be dead.
Can you not drop like a bucket down there and like try and scoop them out?
I don't know. Bucket's got hands to grab rats? I don't think so.
Dude, I'll drop my cat down there with a time-tail rope. He'll fucking snatch them rats right out gladly.
Your cat would be climbing the walls trying to get the hell out of there. Those rats are probably huge by now. I'm kidding. Man. I'm kidding, guys.
I know. Yeah, but man, and it's unclear whether he did this as a means of like just being cruel to the kid, or if he literally was just like a tactile way to like, we need these rats out of there. Get down there, boy.
Yeah.
I mean, we know back in the day, kids were used as labor. That's largely why people had kids. They either had them by accident and they used them as labor, or they had them intentionally to use them as labor.
Right. Yep. Yes, no doubt.
So Carl Drew would end up running away from home at the young age of 14 and found his place among Fall River's criminal underground, keeping company with bikers, drug addicts, and sex workers. And he would soon become a pimp to those said sex workers. He had a direct connection to the victim, Doreen Levesky, as well. He was her pimp. So the young girl that was killed and found under the bleachers, this was her pimp. So definitely got to look long and hard at this guy. However, there was nothing physical to link him to the murder beyond the claim of a young drug addict and sex worker. So we know how that goes, especially in the 70s when you worked in that trade. The police not only didn't look very hard for you if you were the one that was killed, but also they didn't take your word as much.
Here's what I'm thinking, though. I feel like that's a mistake on the police's part. I feel like if one of these workers, these sex workers or drug addicts, comes in to confess to something, why would they do that? They don't want to be under the spotlight of the police either. They don't want to be in the presence of the police either. But I feel like when something is that devastating or something that terrible that someone who is a sex worker or a drug addict has nowhere else to go but to the police, I just don't feel like they're lying.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
They have skin in the game.
Yes.
You know, they can be arrested for what they're doing and whatnot.
Right. They don't want to be
scared
in there.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, and I think the police they were taking this seriously. They would press Karen for more details and even offer witness protection for her cooperation. However, she gave no further information initially, only a final statement promising that if she were to turn up dead, it would be Carl Drew who was responsible. Now, she would continue meeting with the police and helping them as much as she could, while also realizing she was putting herself on the line over the coming days and weeks. Detectives would remain in contact with Karen in the weeks that followed, hoping to learn more about this, quote, Fall River cult as the group of Bedford Street criminals became known. In further talks with detectives, fearing for her life, she referred to Carl Drew as the devil and told police of the consequences she expected for her betrayal if she was found to be talking to the police as she was. He, by the way, Carl Drew, referred to himself as the son of Satan.
Yeah, scare tactic.
Right.
That's what I think it is. And he's
cool moniker, though.
Yeah,
son of Satan.
I guess so.
SOS.
Yeah, not bad. Not as cool as Son of Sam.
She claimed that Carl... Yeah, better than Son of Sam, for sure. I still want to name my dog Javi.
Javi, get in here.
So Karen would claim that Carl organized his prostitution ring as a satanic cult that he ruled with an iron fist. Quote, Satan will take his toll, he would threaten the girls. Accompanied by Carol Fletcher, another young sex worker with ties to the cult, Karen would actually take the police to the nearby Freetown State Forest, where some of their rituals had taken place, allegedly. It was here that the girls claimed that the cult had held their nocturnal gatherings. As they passed by an algae-covered pool of water, Karen said this is where she was told that Carl Drew would dump her body after, quote, injecting battery acid into her veins and offering her soul to Satan if she talked to the police.
Yeah, I just think he's trying to promote this whole satanic background and reasoning for everything he does as just an extra means, I think, to keep these girls in line. Because it's mainly just him. And if these girls wanted to retaliate, they definitely could. They could team up and take him. I think this is just a means of trying to push this off on something that is bigger than himself. So he seems like a bigger force, something that's connected to something darker, so they'll be much more afraid of him.
Yeah. As that's what leaders do, right? Cult leaders and people in power.
Yeah, but some cult leaders believe it. I don't think he did. I think he was full of shit, and he knew he was full of shit. It was just an easy way to control people who were vulnerable and scared and ignorant.
He was basically a pimp. He was using these. He wanted them for money, and to control them, and he was using Satanism as a means to scare them into doing what he wanted.
Precisely.
As police got Karen Marsden talking more, they came to find out that Carl Drew was not the only dangerous individual in her life. Robin Murphy, the girl who had originally gone into the police station with Karen, it seemed, was every bit as scary, if not more. And to me, she is more scary.
Yes,
Robin Murphy terrifies me. Long before becoming involved with Carl Drew, Robin Murphy had allegedly already been dabbling in the occult. She was known to be mentally unstable and violent. She would soon be determined to be Carl's partner in crime and co-leader of the Fall River cult. As the detectives were learning more about this twisted cast of characters associated as the Fall River cult, another body was discovered. So we get our second victim found.
As creepers, you guys already know, everyone wants to keep their home and family safe. Whether it's from a break-in, a fire, a flood, medical emergency, regardless, Simply Safe Home Security delivers award-winning 24/7 protection. With Simply Safe, you don't just get an arsenal of cameras and sensors, you get the best professional monitors in the business. They've got your back day and night, ready to send police, fire, or EMTs when you need them most, straight to your door. And the setup with Simply Safe is so easy. Within about 30 minutes, I had all the sensors on my doors, the HD camera setup, which looks amazing by the way, and the home control tower setup as well. Everything was ready to go and controlled from my phone. And once you've done that, you are ready to go. The Simply Safe professionals take over, monitoring your home 24/7, ready to send help the very moment there's an alarm. Plus, with Simply Safe, there's no long-term contract, no hidden fees or installation cost. Right now, True Crime Guys listeners can get a free home security camera when you purchase a Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/creeper. You also get a 60-day risk-free trial, so there's nothing to lose. Visit simplysafe.com/creeper for your home security camera today. That's simplysafe.com/creeper.
On January 26, 1980, the frozen and bloodied corpse of Barbara Raposa was found in the woods behind an abandoned printing factory. And that was the girlfriend that what's his name had come in and reported missing.
Maltias. Andy
someone
Maltias.
Involved in the cult. Andy Maltias. That's his girlfriend that he came in and reported missing.
Yep.
And he was concerned that she would meet the same fate.
Yeah.
And as Doreen, and she did.
Y'all remember Andy Maltias? He's the newly created Christian, right?
Yeah.
He's the one with the pocket Bible.
Yes. Yeah, he's the one who opened the door for the police and let them into this whole cult world.
Yes.
He's the one who introduced them to this whole thing. I mean, they were aware that there were a cast of sketchy characters down on in downtown Fall River,
right,
doing the sex trade and whatnot, but they weren't aware of that this was a satanic cult out perpetuating these crimes until Andy Maltias walked into the police station and opened it up to them.
Exactly.
Like Doreen, Barbara Raposa's wrists were tied together with fishing line. She had been sexually assaulted, and her skull had been crushed with rocks, just like Doreen. So very similar method of killing this victim in a heinous way, torturing her.
Yep.
The Levesky case had given police a circle of potential suspects, some of who were already under investigation, and this is where they turned when they found another victim killed in the same fashion who was also connected to this group of people.
Right.
The first to be interviewed in connection with Raposa's murder was her boyfriend, Andy Maltias, the newly found Christian man. A nervous Maltias denied any knowledge of the crime. However, a few days later, he would contact police after receiving details of the murder in a psychic dream.
A psychic dream. Wow, how fitting.
This is classic. Didn't Bundy do this type of stuff? Where it's like, well, theoretically, if I would have done it, I would have done it exactly like this, and it all matches up to the crime perfectly.
Exactly. I saw it in a dream. I was involved, but I wasn't really, but in my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very specific details. Police played along with and brought Maltias to the crime scene, allowing him to describe what he had seen in his dream. And of course, his dream helped him show exactly where Barbara's body had been discovered. In reality, its positioning, its time of death, method of killing, and all the other details that were not made public all matched up to his quote-unquote dream. So he was clearly there.
And dumb.
Yeah. if not the
Why don't
perpetrator
Maltias
himself.
just not go to the police? Like, couldn't he just... I don't know.
I feel like he's scared, just like a few of the other members.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anybody that wasn't Carl Drew or Robin Murphy was just afraid of those two. And they were hoping the police could somehow get enough evidence to lock those two up and get them the hell away from them.
Yeah, but it's funny that like all the scared people are the ones that are most suspected now. All the
Yeah,
scared
right.
people
Well,
are
that's the
getting
thing
arrested.
is that Robin Murphy and Carl Drew intentionally had these people go along with them and implicated them into the murders, made them directly be involved in the murders intentionally so that they would be afraid to go to the police so that they wouldn't because they were also going to go down.
Right. Exactly.
That was all part of the plan.
Yep. That's how you make a blood pack right there. You involve everybody.
Yep. In the days following Andy's arrest, the investigation received further assistance from an unexpected source, Robin Murphy.
Ooh.
She contacted police and offered to testify against Andy Maltias as a witness to the murder. And this is where I think she realizes that a lot of evidence is being gathered and a lot of people are talking and she's going to go down.
Yeah. You know what I think?
And so this is her way of getting ahead of it and basically getting a plea deal early on.
Yeah.
And screwing these other people over, testifying against them. And she's the one who makes out and, gets more of a slap on the wrist than the rest.
This right here is just more proof that she's cold and calculated, because it's funny that right after Andy Maltias is arrested, charged with the murder, and has already given up all this stuff to the police, now Robin wants to come and just throw gas on the anti-Maltias guilty fire and testify against him. It's perfect timing.
Yep.
It really is. They already think he did it because of all the shit that he knows. He was obviously there. Yep. It's like, why not just throw more gasoline on the fire?
He's going to testify against Robin as well as the others. So she's like, no, I'll testify against him.
Yeah.
I'll say I was there and I'll testify against him.
Yeah, I'll testify against him right now. Like, let's do it. Yeah. I mean, why not? He's the one that's arrested, right? She's still out. This is the perfect time to strike, which makes her look even more guilty in my eyes.
Yeah. So Robin also claimed to have been present for the killing of Doreen Levesky and agreed to turn state's evidence in that case as well. In exchange for her cooperation, she brokered a deal where she was placed in protective custody and granted immunity in both murders. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
She is cold and calculated, and it's working.
It is.
Like, her staying quiet through the initial interviews and staying mysterious, and now she comes in and offers up everything they want.
Yep.
But of course, it's her story. It's her story, which a lot of it is designed to make her look less guilty than the others.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. The story she gave police and later repeated in court was that Andy Maltias had killed Barbara Raposa after discovering she had been cheating on him with another man. Murphy claimed she claimed to have been with them both on the night of the murder. They had all been partying together while driving around the city, and at some point the couple started arguing. Maltias then parked his car behind an abandoned factory, dragged Raposa out, and raped her. She cried for help and proceeded to beat her with his fists and then with a rock. Afterwards, he drove off with Murphy, leaving his bloodied girlfriend to crawl away on her own. This was Robin Murphy's story of how Raposa was killed.
Yep. But why didn't she go to the police immediately? If that's what happened, why not go to the police right then?
Yeah, she claimed when asked that Maltias had threatened her with the same fate if she talked. Yeah, because you're so scared of Maltias. Yeah. Come on now.
I'm sure you're terrified of him. Right.
Yeah. It was only after he was behind bars that she claimed to have felt safe enough to come forward with her story. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, she's definitely trying to bury this guy.
But what about Carl Drew and his cult of murderous followers? Where does he fit in as far as Robin Murphy's concerned? Those details would come to light during her recounting of the Doreen Levesky murder. So, although the forensic evidence was near identical to the Raposa case, according to Robin Murphy, there was no direct connection between the two murders, except for the fact that she happened to be present for both conveniently.
Okay.
So the murders are both done in a very dramatic, rare type of method of killing someone: stoning someone to death, stabbing them, tying their hands with fishing wire.
Methods that
one
take
person,
time,
according to her, is present for both, and yet she didn't do either of them, and they were unrelated otherwise. She happened to be near the area, but not directly there. She was in the car for one.
Right.
It's like,
and isn't there?
So these two men that you were with decided to kill someone in the exact same fashion. Kill young girls in the exact same fashion, but you didn't have anything to do with it, and you were there for both of them, and they were not there. The two men were not there for both crimes, only one each.
Yeah.
None of that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that makes no sense at all. Also, it's already been proven, or at least highly speculated by the autopsy report, that the murders were done by more than one person. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning. So the cops are already, they're like, there's no way one person did this. And if they did, it went on for a very long time. You know what I mean?
Right. But according to her, there's like the men would walk off with the girl for a few minutes and come back and she didn't hear anything. And then it was like very just kind of hush-hush about it after that. Whereas this, like you said, would have taken a long time. There would have been screaming. It would have been a big ordeal.
That type of mutilation does not happen in minutes. There's no way.
No
way.
No. And it wasn't meant to.
That's
it was
right.
meant for the person to suffer as long as possible. That's where you get power from Satan, according to the way they believe.
And you're terrifying the rest of the people who are in your cult or in your group at the time. You know what I mean? You're terrifying the shit out of them. Who wants to talk after witnessing that?
Yep. So she told police that the killing of Doreen Levesky was an offering to the soul to Satan, and Carl Drew was behind it. She claimed that the young girl had recently left Carl's group with the intention of working the streets on her own. Yeah, so Doreen was new to the area. She had moved to Fall River and began to work in the sex trade, and she was not too keen to being under Carl Drew's umbrella and being a part of that group. And that's why Carl Drew had to get rid of her, because he wasn't making money off of her. She was just a threat to his order, you know? And so he had to have her gone, and why not use her as an example and further push his Satanist agenda.
That just goes to show, like, Doreen must have been really in demand in that area. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because why wouldn't he just be like, well, go on off. If you're going to die, if you think that she can't do it without you and she can't, you know, do that type of work without you, then just let her go. If you think she's going to die, why do you have to kill her? Why is it if she can't have her, nobody can? I feel like there's something more here. Either Carl or Robin were in love with Doreen and Doreen wasn't in love with them, or maybe they wanted her to be a deeper part of what they had going on and she wasn't into it. Yep. Or something. Something was special about Doreen that both of them did not like.
Yep. Yeah. So she tried to leave the group, and unfortunately leaving the group wasn't so easy. According to Robin, Carl tracked down Doreen at a Bedford Street bar and forced her into his car. Robin Murphy, Karen Marsden, and a man named Willie Smith, who was Drew's friend at the time and fellow Satanist, came along for the ride. So you get this group of people and this young girl who tried to leave the group, and they're not going to let it happen. They take her. They tell her that she couldn't afford to work the streets alone and backhanded her across the face, Carl Drew, supposedly. Right. They then pulled behind the high school, and the two men took the girl under some bleachers. Of course, Robin Murphy is leaving herself in the car again, not at the scene of, she's in the car near the scene of the crime, but not directly at the scene of the crime. Once again, supposedly Murphy and Marsden stayed at the car. According to her initial statement, Murphy heard no screams and claimed to see nothing. After a while, the men returned without Levesky, and the four of them drove away. Of course, her story didn't match the horrific crime scene that would have, as we said, taken longer. You would have definitely heard screams. And in time, her story would evolve to include various gory details, all of which apparently slipped her mind during the initial interview, and all of which she could have only known by actually being directly at the scene herself and participating.
Right.
Robin Murphy wasn't the only cult member talking to the police at this time, though. Since her initial interview, Karen Marsden continued to stay in touch with detectives working the case. She was believed to have been present for both murders, though her retelling of events greatly contradicted Robin Murphy's version. She maintained that Carl Drew was the cult figurehead behind these killings, but she also pointed to Robin Murphy as playing a direct leading role in these crimes. According to Karen, Robin had instructed all of those present to take part in the mutilation of Doreen and Barbara's bodies, likely to keep them quiet by directly involving them in the crimes. That is a brilliant way to keep control over a group of people, you know.
It really is.
Get them in on something that they basically can't go to police about because they were directly involved.
That's right.
By the time of Karen Marsden's final interview with police, she was on the verge of an emotional breakdown. So she keeps talking to the police in darkness, basically. She's meeting with them, and she knows that if they find out, if Carl Drew, if Robin Murphy find out that she's talking to police, she's done for. And she was convinced that she was going to be their next sacrificial murderer. The detective, this still shakes him to this day, because he last spoke with Karen and tried to convince her to go into witness protection. She was so scared, he couldn't believe how scared she was. She refused, and he remembers dropping her off at a church that night and remembering having a bad feeling as he drove away. And of course, Karen would be reported missing on February 9th, 1980, and she would be the third victim found as sacrificial slaying in this cult's agenda here. 2 months later, a grisly discovery. Go ahead.
I was going to say, that just goes to show how much fear Karen had and how much control that these two had over her, because they're just two people. It's not like there's any evidence that this is a deeper, more elaborate organization or cult that you can't hide from. I feel
like there's a few more than two, because it was obviously there was the two ringleaders, but then they had people who were basically had been pulled into this, and they had been a part of these crime scenes. So now those people were willing to do things if ordered to, out of fear.
Okay, well, let's say there's 20. I mean, you go into witness protection and you go to like Washington State or California. Yeah. I mean, what are those 20 people going to do? How the hell are they going to find you? I don't understand this. this thinking here, but she was just terrified. That just goes to show how terrified she must have really been of them, and she really thought they had some kind of reach.
Yeah,
she did.
If you're that scared and you're living in a small town, you're that scared of a group of people, just get in your car or get in a car, whatever. I don't really, in the 70s, I'm not a fan of hitchhiking, but this might be one scenario where you take that risk because the alternative is worse.
Well, just take the detective up on his offer of witness protection, and you don't have to pay for nothing.
Get the hell out.
You don't have to pay for nothing.
They're not like Russian spies. They're not going to find you if you move to another city.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I understand people who wrong the mob or, it's the cartel, and they don't want to go into hiding because they're like, what's the point? I get that. But this little small organization of people that don't have any money and living in the
uneducated shithead Satanists.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They need this area to operate. They need this area.
Right. And they're already under the lens. Like, they're being pressured by police right now bad. Right. So they don't have time to go on a manhunt for you.
No, precisely, man. Precisely.
So, yeah, so unfortunately, Karen Marsden would be reported missing, as we said, in February of 1980, and 2 months later, a grisly discovery was made near the beach town of Westport. While clearing a parcel of land, a man stumbled across the top half of a human skull. Police arrived on the scene and conducted a more detailed search of the area. They would find decaying carcasses of 3 cats, sheep bones, and clumps of human hair. They also found some jewelry, a high-heeled shoe, and pieces from a woman's sweater. So they're finding all kinds of weird stuff, and the animal remains would lead you to believe maybe they found that there were some sacrificial animal things going on out there as well. 3 cats, that's kind of odd. Like, to find 1 cat dead in a rural area, it's like, well, maybe it wandered off, it starved, it died, or something got it. But like 3 cats, finding those in the same spot seems to be out of the norm.
Yeah, they're definitely sacrificing those cats and that sheep. Sheeps and goats, they're popular for sacrifices in the Bible as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of symbolization behind sheeps and goats. So I do believe that everything that was left there was there on purpose. That they were performing rituals here. So I guess that gives a little more clout to them actually being a practiced cult, right? Or practicing cult, rather.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of there's members that talked about them donning robes and full-on ritualistic nightly nocturnal meetings with sacrifices of animals and whatnot, and obviously people as well at this point.
Obviously.
So forensics would determine that the skull that was found belonged to Karen Marsden. So her fear was not unfounded by any means. She was definitely afraid for a good reason, and she had clearly become the latest victim of this cult. Yeah. Soon after, a woman named Maureen Sparta contacted police and named Robin Murphy as Karen's killer. So this is another person who's involved in this cult. That's another thing. It's like it seemed like you're almost not even sure who all's in. Like, it seemed like Carl Drew and Robin Murphy, they had indoctrinated quite a few people in one way or another. They had gotten people involved with them.
Yeah,
and I think it was my guess is they would pick people up that they kind of knew and take them to a place and get them involved in some shit that the person didn't really want to be involved in, and then they were kind of hooked. Stuck with them at that point. Like, shit, I've already been involved in some stuff with these people.
Right.
So yeah, for this Maureen Sparta, the cult killings, in her opinion, had gone too far. Maureen was a former sex worker who lived near Fall River's waterfront. She hosted a number of satanic gatherings in her apartment and acted as something of a den mother figure to the runaways and drug users who had hung out there. She was also one of Robin Murphy's ex-lovers. According to her, Robin had admitted to the murder during a phone conversation. Carol Fletcher, a woman who had accompanied Karen Marsden when she took the police tour. Remember the girl that had gone with Karen Marsden when she did that tour of the woods? She had also been a part of the cult.
Yes.
When they came across the green water and all that.
Yeah, the algae water and all that.
Yeah, so Carol had accompanied Karen when she had taken the police out to the woods to show them all that had been going on. And now she's contacted police following Karen's, her death and the discovery of her skull. Carol comes forward and claims that Robin Murphy and Carl Drew were responsible for the murder. So many people now are stepping up to the plate. They're scared, but at the same time, these people have to be stopped, or else who knows how far it's going to go. They're worried for their own safety. Drew's friend, Carl Davis, a pimp who operated out of Fall River in nearby Providence, Rhode Island, was also present. Fletcher herself had driven the group to the scheduled wooded area where the satanic sacrifice took place. So police are getting they're getting people who are involved in the cult, who had been to these meetings. These people are showing police where the meetings took place. There's still stuff left behind at these areas in the woods that, would give some clout to their stories. And following the accusations that connected her to Karen Marsden's murder, a warrant was was issued for Robin Murphy's arrest. So there's finally enough. There's enough people stepping forward with evidence that they decide Robin Murphy is behind this one. And at that point, Carl Drew was also indicted and placed under arrest. During her interrogation, Robin Murphy broke down and told police everything from her perspective. Of course, it was slanted, in her direction, as usual.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, you probably can believe about half of it, probably.
Yeah. She said that Karen Marsden had become too much of a liability. She was a witness to the killing of Doreen Levesque and rumored to have gone to the police. That part was true, for sure.
Well, she went to the police with Karen, so...
Yeah, I know, yeah. It shouldn't be a shock. She shouted out Carl Drew killed Doreen Levesque while Robin was there in her, present.
Yeah, exactly.
So Carl Drew supposedly had decided her fate as far as Karen Marsden. He'd chosen her to die, and with the help of Carl Davis, he supposedly forced Murphy to take part in the murder. Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm. Robin was unwilling participant.
Right.
She just got dragged along. She had to be a part of this. And she was chosen to take part in the murder as an act of loyalty to the cult. According to her statements, Robin was made to drag Marsden from the car and pull out her hair. This gets real dark, guys, if you're at all sensitive. This was followed by a ritual stoning by Carl Drew, Murphy, Fletcher, and Davis. So you got a group of, 6 people here. Carl Drew then cut off one of Marsden's fingers and broke her neck with his bare hands, allegedly.
Jesus.
Robin Murphy says that while in a trance-like state and under the direction of Carl Drew, she followed this up by slitting Marsden's throat with a knife that was handed to her by Davis. The two men then tore the girl's head off and kicked it around the woods, according to Robin Murphy.
God.
The frenzied post-mortem defilement would reach its climax as homage was paid to Satan, and Carl carved an X into Marsden's torso and began speaking in tongues, offering her soul to the Dark Lord. Isn't it weird how they always they take stuff from the Bible? It's always like the speaking in tongues thing, isn't that?
It is. Yeah, that's also a Christian religious thing. There's a lot of sects of the Christian religion still now, a lot of denominations that still speak in tongues to this day. Mm-hmm. They believe that everyone can do it, and it's like a language that only God can understand.
Right.
So I guess that Satan can understand it as well.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's down there like, I don't know what that means. That's God, you idiot. God. Thanks for the sacrifice, I guess. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. So Robin's story would get even sicker. It's almost like she's just trying to shock the police at this point. Yeah. She claims that she was made to perform oral sex on the headless cadaver before it was dumped in the woods, doused in gasoline, and burned to ashes.
Jeez.
So,
why would she add that in there, though? That's a crazy lie if you add that shit in there.
That doesn't need to be added in.
Yeah, that's a crazy lie to just add.
Like I said, I think she got off on this. At this point, she knows she's going to prison, so she's just trying to be as scary and twisted as possible.
Or maybe she's just trying to look like the victim here. She's just like, this is the stuff they made me do. Why would I want to do this on my own accord?
That's a good point as well, because she is still trying to downplay her involvement at this point. I mean, obviously she's there, she's doing these things, but she's trying to make it seem like she had no other choice, that Carl Drew was forcing her to do these things.
That's right.
So many of the bizarre details of the satanic rituals and killings in this case are based on the word, however, of a mentally unstable young woman who was known to manipulate those around her, Robin Murphy. So it leads you to wonder how much of this is Robin Murphy's story, how much of this is legit.
Uh-huh.
And also, you have a lot of talk now about the police's, the interrogation that they did, the practices they used. It came to light that a fair bit of witness tampering, manipulation, and misconduct took place throughout the investigation by the police, including detectives. These detectives had strong Catholic beliefs, so they seemed to dive headfirst into the satanic ritualistic parts of this, and they even went to a seance at one of the cult members' apartments.
Because it's not,
at one point,
it's not really a stretch for them. They believe in this stuff. They believe in this. They believe that people can be, people have to be exorcised. They believe in the devil very much so. So this is not that big of a stretch to them. They can understand why these people would be possessed to do these types of things. And they not only they understand it, like they're going to pursue that as a legit lead.
Yeah. And at the same time, you had Carl Drew in police custody telling them that he worshiped Satan.
Yeah.
He said, I worship him like you worship God. And so that just kind of justifies everything that they were doing. So, but at the same time, Carl Drew never admitted to taking a part in these murders. He always maintained his innocence. To this day, maintains his innocence. And there's actually a faction of people who believe he's innocent and that he was just basically framed by Robin Murphy.
Wow. That does make the story a little more interesting that a 17-year-old girl was leading all of this. It does make it very interesting. So I can see why so many people would buy into that.
Yeah. So as expected, the court trials of Andy Maltias, Carl Drew, Robin Murphy, and Carl Davis were a media circus. Headlines of satanic rites, sexual torture, and cult murder. Many believe that these four individuals were only the tip of the iceberg and a dangerous cult was still active in the area. So this opened up Pandora's box when it comes to the hysteria in the town and the media. Anything that happened was automatically attributed. This is the Satanic Panic era, and it wasn't just in Massachusetts that this was going on.
Oh God, no.
We've studied the West Memphis Three, so we know that, and there's many other examples of people getting lambasted because of the Satanic Panic era.
Absolutely.
Andy Maltias was the first to stand trial in January of 1981. Much of the case against him was based on the witness testimony of Robin Murphy. He was convicted in the first-degree murder of Barbara Raposa and given a life sentence without the possibility of parole, and would end up dying of cancer in 1998. So he got convicted of the murder of his girlfriend, who he was the one who went into the police station and had reported missing, and he ends up getting convicted for her murder.
I think he killed her.
At the very least, he was there and played a role in it.
He was there and allowed it to happen, if at the very, very, very least.
Yeah. With local media revealing details of the Fall River cult murders, Robin Murphy, Carl Drew, and Carl Davis's trials had to be moved to another county, and their trials would take place in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Robin Murphy's lawyer convinced the court that his young client had been under the powerful influence of the satanic cult at the time of Karen Marsden's murder, allowing her to plead to the lesser charge of second-degree murder in exchange for her testimony against her co-defendants, which, man, this was a big injustice done.
Yes.
Because Robin Murphy, at this point, I think we can say, was more than just an unwilling bystander here.
That's what I feel as well, but you'd be surprised, man, studying this case, how many people don't feel that way. We're probably going to catch some hate about this case.
In regards to Robin Murphy?
Yeah.
We're
going to catch...
See, I saw it the other way. Everything I read was like Robin Murphy was the devil here, and Carl Drew got screwed. That's what I saw that all over the place online, but you saw the opposite. You saw Robin Murphy was innocent, Carl Drew was
a few times. And I listened to another podcast, a pretty well done podcast as well. I'm not trying to belittle them in any way or whatsoever, but they totally believe that Robin Murphy was used and played no role in this. And they made some great points. They really did. Made some excellent points. But I don't know. I don't believe that. I feel like she did know what was going on, and she maybe even enjoyed it. She enjoyed the power, enjoyed being part of this and manipulating these people. And I believe I base that a lot on her first interactions with the police. She was not nervous. She was cold, calculated, quiet. Didn't give up any information unless it was the right time. Somebody like that is like a sociopath. She doesn't understand that that she could be going down. And has the ability, remember, she is a 17-year-old girl. She has the ability to throw on that charm, I'm sure, and
the innocent routine.
An innocent routine, that's right. And completely get out of things. Absolutely.
The way I see it, and I mean, this is just my theory, I could be totally wrong, but I have this feeling that Carl Drew found Robin Murphy. You know, he was a pimp working this downtown area.
Yeah.
He comes across Robin Murphy, and his tactic, Carl Drew, and his motivation, I think we agree, was financial, and like he also got off on, you know, being the ringleader of a group of women and whatnot, and he liked the power that went along with that. And I think he got this. A part of what he did was like convince these young girls that he was scary and that he was a Satanist, and that if you didn't do what he wanted, he would do these things. And I think it was more for show than anything. Mm-hmm. But then Robin Murphy came into the fold, and she was like, "Oh yeah," and she like one-upped him, because I think she was already studying the occult, and she was, she was damaged from her, being molested and all these other things that had happened to her. She's already on the streets working as a sex worker at 17 years old, and she was legit. And Carl Drew was. She kind of went along with it, and next thing you know, Carl Drew was like, "Holy shit! Like she actually is doing the things."
He's like, "I got to step my game up."
That I was threatening. And like, oh boy,
yeah,
like he awakened a monster almost. It seems like,
yeah,
that's my theory.
Okay, that's not a bad theory.
But I think they're both ringleaders of this cult that was killing people in heinous ways, and I think they're both terrible.
Well, we've done a lot of cases, man, where people were fine on their own, and then when these two people met up, it just became toxic, and they just fueled each other's fire, and having that other person back them up in their beliefs and in their cruelty and the things that they want to do, that's all they need. That's all the confidence they need to put these thoughts and these ideas into action. And that's a great theory. It is.
So as we mentioned, their trials would be moved. Robin would end up getting the lesser charge of second-degree murder in exchange for her testimony against the co-defendants. Additionally, the immunity deal she struck up with the DA's office held up, and she received no additional charges in connection with the Levesque or Raposa murders.
Wow. So
she got second-degree murder for Karen Marsden, with whom she had gone into the police station initially with, and then she took place in killing. But yet the other two murders, she got complete immunity on.
Wow.
Unbelievable deal she struck up with the DA. Unbelievable deal. She jumped, like we said, she got ahead of things. She knew where it was headed. She was very cold and calculated. Yeah. She saw that they were all going down, and she tried to get ahead of it, and she did.
Yep.
And she took down the others, and I wouldn't say a slap on the wrist, because, second-degree murder is not a slap on the wrist, but for what she did, it is.
Yeah.
Like, what she took
part in. For not being put to death, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So she would end up receiving a life sentence with the possibility of parole. The fact that she even had the possibility of getting parole was pretty crazy. And after spending 24 years behind bars, she actually was released on June 10th, 2004. I'm sure people were a little whiffed. I know that a lot of the detectives, that's where I lean to. It's like the detectives were 100% in the court that Robin Murphy was the main person here committing these. Like, she was the real ringleader in their opinion. And they were freaked out when she got out. However, she luckily violated her parole conditions when she was driving around with a woman who had drugs on her, and she was returned to prison 7 years later.
Yeah, I think someone she was riding with had heroin, or there was heroin in the car that she was riding in, and they took her down for that. Yeah. 7 years later.
So, she was out free for 7 years.
God, and she didn't do anything? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of harsh. If she lived 7 years, it's like...
She had some strict parole conditions, apparently.
Yeah, well, as they should be.
Just being in the car with someone else who had drugs 7 years after you're released, and you go back to prison, and she hasn't gotten out since. She keeps getting put up for potential parole, and then they deny her.
Talk about kicking yourself for a decision.
In 2022.
Oh my God, can you imagine? It's like, if we would have just fucking took this road instead of this road, we wouldn't have got pulled over, and I wouldn't be in prison for the rest of my fucking life. Oh God, that will eat at you.
Also, if you wouldn't have taken part in brutally killing three young
that too. But what's done is done, Lauren. Come on.
Let's not forget about that part.
Done is done. I'm just kidding.
So Carl Davis, who obviously was there for these crimes as well, the case against him kind of fell apart. He never stood trial for his alleged role in the Karen Marsden murder. However, the following year, he was arrested for assaulting Maureen Sparta. Remember, the Maureen Sparta was the woman who accompanied Karen Marsden to show police what all was going on and everything, and she stepped up to the plate to help bring down the other members of the cult.
She seems like the only person in this story with somewhat of a heart, Marine Sparta, because she was the one, if you don't remember, she was the one that created like the safe house for these girls. When they had nowhere else to go, they could go and stay with Marine. And she kind of was like a mother figure to a lot of these girls.
So Carl got away, essentially. Didn't get brought down for the murders. So what does he do? He goes and almost kills Marine Sparta. With it beats her while she was pregnant, almost to death. And he would get sentenced to 7 years in prison for that, and he is now free again. Carl Drew would go down as the main ringleader of the Fall River cults on paper. Robin Murphy's testimony painted him as a violent, sadistic killer who acted out as the ringleader in these horrific murders. His picture, it's pretty. I mean, he looks like somebody that could run a satanic cult as well.
Yeah, he does.
Him and Robin Murphy, their pictures fit the. It's obviously,
I can't argue with that.
Can't read a book by its cover, but also we've read the inside of the book as well a little bit. And,
actually, we've already read the book, and
their
the
picture
cover matches.
fits. Testimony from his ex-girlfriend as well didn't help. A woman named Leah Johnson testified that he told her that he had killed a girl along with Davis Murphy and another woman while high on drugs. He also allegedly gave Leah a diamond ring that had belonged to Karen Marsden. So some stuff doesn't look good on him there.
Yeah.
Despite his unwavering claims of innocence, Drew was convicted in first-degree murder of Karen Marsden and is serving a life sentence at the MCI in Shirley, Massachusetts, with no possibility of parole. He has filed numerous appeals over the years seeking a new trial, and his most recent and final was denied in 2006.
Yeah, he ain't getting out.
And Carl Drew, as I mentioned, has had supporters over the years, and they've even petitioned the Massachusetts governor to review his case. And I think he does like a blog or something online. He's written stuff about his innocence. And what's sad is that the case involving Doreen Levesky's murder never went to trial. She never got, her family never got closure or justice. As far as none of these people were ever convicted of killing Doreen Levesky. And the district attorney claimed it was just not worth it. It would be costly, and the best case scenario would basically result in another life sentence for Carl Drew, who's not getting out anyway.
Right.
So it's assumed that Carl Drew and or others participated in Doreen Levesky's murder. So there's no mystery there. It's just on paper her crime is technically, I guess, unsolved as far as no one was ever convicted of her murder.
Right.
All charges against Carl Drew and Willie Smith, the man who supposedly assisted him in the night of the killing, were quietly dropped in regards to Doreen Levesky.
That's crazy.
So,
that's terrible for the family, but I do understand it as far as the legal system. Like, this guy's not getting out. He's in prison forever, and they're not going to give him the death penalty when he didn't do it alone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just don't think they're going to do that. So nothing's going to happen. He's just going to they're just going to drag it out through court, spend more time transporting him to and from, possibility of escape and all this shit. And then, it's not worth it.
Yep. Yeah, so there's been talks back and forth over the years between Carl Drew and Robin Murphy. They both continued to switch their stories up, pointing blame at each other. As far as the detectives, Paul Kerry, a detective from the Fall River Major Crimes Division who worked the case, has his own theory. He says, quote, "I still believe that Robin Murphy was the real ringleader, not Carl Drew, that Levesky was murdered because Murphy was also in love with her and became jealous when Levesky started seeing Drew. To this day, I'm still not satisfied that Drew was present at any of the murders. I thought it was a bad move to grant Murphy immunity. I still believe that she was the ringleader behind all of these slayings." So that's someone directly involved that, was the investigator in it.
There must be something to convince him. And he talked to these people face to face. So that has a lot of weight to me.
And Carl Drew still denies being involved in any such group. He says, quote, "I was thrown in the middle of a mass nightmare that involved macabre accusations of devil worship and human sacrifice." And that was in an autobiographical. How do you say that word? There you go. Autobiographical. Sorry. Some words just make my mind, my brain just scrambles.
Right.
I'm looking at it
Close
like
enough.
Autobiographical. There we go. It's too many syllables for my brain.
This is a lot.
Totally off the wall accusations that was right out of some thriller novel. None true as far as I was involved, and nothing like what was being said, Carl Drew claims. And he remains in prison after his motion for a new trial was denied in 2005. Robin Murphy, having been caught in repeated lies over the years, was denied parole yet again in 2017, and her next parole hearing will be in 2022. So for now, Carl Drew and Robin Murphy remain in prison. Carl Drew likely to never get out. Robin Murphy, we'll see. But she's lied to the parole board on several occasions now. They've caught her in lies just in their hearings alone.
Been bad.
And so they're just like, you know what? Yeah, you can stay behind bars because we don't believe anything you say at this point.
Yep, and that's what's really killing her. She's been caught in so many lies. And there's nothing she can say to get out. Nothing she could say.
And it's hard to forget, what she was a part of back in, 1979, 1980.
These people that keep coming in for her parole hearings, it's, character witnesses, people who were involved, people who knew her, family members.
Keep her locked up.
Yeah, nobody is in her favor. Nobody is in her favor except for her defense attorney, and she's paid to be. So,
right.
Yeah, it don't look good, man. It's just, if your own family and friends and stuff don't want you out, then I don't think you need to come out. I think you're good.
Right.
You need to hang in there. So.
All right.
So that's some cult shit for you to start off 2021. How about that? Another good way to start off 2021 is to get you some new deodorant.
Smelling good in your pits.
That's right. Smell good in your pits, guys, with some Oh My Gaia. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my Gaia.
Oh my Gaia.
Oh my Gaia. I can't say it. But it's an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. Guys, there's tons of scents to choose from. Today, I'm rocking one of my favorites, Egyptian Musk. I think I smell great here in the studio. But if that's not for you, there's vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber, pear. We have our very own scent called True Crime Pine that's available for everyone, and it's a special edition. It's kind of a sweet cinnamon pine smell that is unisex. Anybody can wear this and smell great. And because you guys are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper, CREEPER, for 15% off your order. And that's at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. And that's OHMYGAIA.com. Guys, you won't regret it.
Do it. Let's see.
Right.
The last episode we did was the last Freeloader episode we recorded on the 27th.
Nice.
So I'm just looking for reviews.
Got some new reviews this week, right? Can't wait to get some new reviews because we had Patreon last week. If you guys missed that, if you're not signed up for Patreon, patreon.com/truecrimeguys, you guys can get access to our once a month exclusive episode that we release on Patreon, which was last week, obviously, and we'll do one every month. So you get that as well as access to Just the Banter on every Friday. And that's at the $5 tier. And if you guys want to talk to us and see our ugly mugs for some reason, you can donate $10 a month. And at that level, we will set up a Zoom call with you if you so please. So if you are a $10 patron at the moment and you guys want to have a Zoom call, hit us up. We will work out the dates. We don't really want to do more than 2 or 3 people at a time because that's a mess, that Zoom call with the delay and all that stuff. So we want to make sure that you guys get to say what you want to say and we get an opportunity to talk to you. So patreon.com/truecrimeguys. All right.
Do it.
You got some reviews?
Yeah. I want to say thanks to Alexa FB in the U.S. Said, love them, 5 stars. Started binge listening about 2 weeks ago and have gone about 2 years in. So,
oh, damn.
She's dedicated there.
Yeah, 2 years and 2 weeks.
Thank you, Alexa.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Then we got Crizzy in the U.S. 5 stars, fire emojis, Xmas fires, and happy new pod. Stay creeping.
Always.
This has been my favorite pod since they were LV based. Holy crap, going way back.
Way back.
Just now rating and review. Come on.
That's probably send another one. Sometimes people will do multiple reviews.
Hey, whenever you do it, however you do it, we appreciate
That's
it.
right.
Whitney Maxfield in the U.S. said, great show, fun listen, 5 stars.
Right on.
Thank you. Then we got Kadam9 in the U.S. said, late to the party, 5 stars. How in the world did I just find you guys?
All right, better late than never.
Hey, like I said, however you find us, whenever you find us, we love
Yep.
it. Then we got Libra Baby 777 in the U.S. U.S. is strong this time.
yeah.
Where's the rest of the world?
Come on, guys.
Said, keep it up, guys. 5 stars. Thank you. Then we got Danita Key in the U.S. said, love it. Loving the podcast. Great job, guys. 5 stars. Thank you. And we got Mommy2DC in the U.S. said, amazing podcast. Happened upon it about a week ago. Never had even listened to a single podcast before.
Whoa.
Fell in love with Michael and Lauren. Wow.
Never listened.
We're the first podcast you've ever listened to?
We just ruined your podcast taste. I'm so sorry.
That's setting the bar low
Yeah.
for podcast. No, I'm just
Man,
kidding.
there's so many things out there you could hear and love. I'm so sorry
Right.
that we said it like this, but it's already set now, so you might
That'll
as well
just
enjoy
make
it.
the ones that are better, you just be like, oh, damn, it even gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we got Snoopy Noodle in the U.S. said, spot on, 5 stars. Loved listening to these guys. Great crime lines, great banter, and amazing interactions on Patreon.
Right on. Thanks.
Right on, Snoopy Noodle.
Thanks for taking the time to notice that. We do give a little extra attention to our patrons. We do.
That's right. And then one final one, all U.S. this time. We got Kin Miller 4 in the U.S. said, so glad I found this podcast. 5 stars. Absolutely love it. These guys are such a good duo and tell the stories well, creative intros, and genuine banter to start the episodes. Always crack me up. Highly recommend. 5 stars. Thank you.
Right on. All right. Thank you guys so much for those reviews. Great way to help the show, guys. Go leave a review. If you haven't yet, if you've been listening for like 3 years, 4 years, go leave a review, Come on.
Yep. And check out Patreon. You can actually, I don't know if you mentioned it, but you can pay for a year,
Yeah.
$21, and you're done. And you don't have to worry about your card getting hit monthly for a fee or anything. So.
That's right. You just got those stimulus checks, $21, and you can have a Patreon prescription, subscription, not a prescription. Well, maybe.
Well, for some people, it's a
some people
prescription.
it's
If you're a little sad that day, we'll cheer you up.
Whatever you use as meds is up to you. But
Right.
but you can have a Patreon subscription for just $21. Not have to worry about that monthly fee. You know what I'm saying? That shit gets annoying because I'm sure everyone now, man. I mean, how many monthly streaming services do you have that you subscribe to?
Yeah.
I probably got like 8. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd say at least that.
It's ridiculous. So it's nice to get some of that shit up front. So Patreon allows us to do that. I'm not sure if you can do that on all Patreon sites right now. I think it's still kind of in the test.
We got grandfathered in. We've been doing Patreon for a few
That's right.
years. So.
Yeah, we kind of got grandfathered in. We get to be the guinea pigs for a lot of stuff on Patreon, which is cool. It's cool. We get to be on the curb. But it's patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Also, guys, go check out our merch, truecrimeguys.threadless.com. We have new merch designs on there, as well as redbubble.com. Search True Crime Guys. Go to our portfolio. Or you can go to kincustom.com, K-I-N custom.com, and search True Crime Guys on there as well. All of these links are below the description of this very episode, as well as links to Patreon and any sponsors or ads that you hear in the episode. There will always be links below, so you guys don't have to go far.
And we attach our sources.
Yes.
In this case, I relied heavily on a fantastic article, actually.
Oh, very in-depth.
I'll shout out to... Yeah, that's where we got most of our information, actually, was a civilnation.com. Civilnation.com, CVLT nation.com, had an article called Sex, Satanism, and Sacrificial Slaughter, the Fall River Cult Murders, 1979 to 1980. Fantastic. Freaking, this article was almost as long as a book.
It was.
And told the whole story.
Yeah.
So if you want to get pictures and you want to go read it yourself, check it out. But it'll be linked as well.
Right.
We attach our sources. So,
Not a whole...
Yeah, we relied on that one and as well as some other articles and whatnot.
Not a whole lot of YouTube videos or podcasts on this topic.
No, it's this one kind of flies under the radar for something that meets all the stuff. It meets all the requirements of stuff people love to hear about.
I would think so. I would think so. But so that's that case. What else we got? We got our other show, Strange and Unexplained. Guys, if you're all caught up on True Crime Guys and you just love things that are put out by True Crime Guys Productions, we have a whole nother show for you called Strange and Unexplained, where we dive into unsolved missing persons cases, strange phenomena like Skinwalker Ranch or the Zone of Silence in Mexico. But a lot of things like that. But a lot of the cases are unsolved. So, and it's a little more serious take. It's more serious narration throughout some of it. But, there's still some tongue-in-cheek humor in there. We still got to be us. And, of course, Lorne plays his role as the Lorne synopsis. So you're getting 2 different perspectives on every single case that we do. Me and Lorne, we don't study together. We don't talk about it. He studies the case. He records a segment for the show. I give you the facts, and then I give my opinion at the end, and then you get to hear Lorne's opinion, and we compare. We have a lot of fun on that show. But that's Strange and Unexplained, guys. And you'll see on the logo it says True Crime Guys Presents. It's 2 Velociraptors. If you just search True Crime Guys in your podcast player, it should pull up no problem.
There you go.
Right.
So much entertainment for you.
So much, guys. More entertainment coming in 2021. So hold on to your horses.
All right. Does that do it?
I think that's it, man.
Okay, guys. See you next week. Keep creeping.
Yep, keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.